afternoon, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. I hope everyone's getting some enjoyment out of today. My name's Tim Hourigan. I'm the Managing Director of Solar Blessing, based here in Stanthorpe. We've been in Stanthorpe for the last 7 years, and we do everything solar related. So we specialise in off-grid systems, grid connect systems, hybrid systems, and we also play in the residential and the commercial space. So firstly, I'd just like to thank the organisers of the Eco Expo for putting on such a great day, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present to you all. When I was thinking about what I should talk about today, I thought to myself, well, what's the most common question we're getting at the moment through the business? And it's related to energy storage and hybrid systems. Should I get a hybrid system? Should I invest in batteries, basically? Is there a good return on investment? What's the battery price like at the moment? You know, they're the questions we're getting a lot of, and we're going to get more of them as time goes on. So I thought my topic today was going to be to store or not to store, and should you invest in batteries? So hopefully that will be of interest to some people. So in order to do that, we're just going to go through a quick overview of energy storage. The other big question that we get is, can I disconnect from the grid completely? If I'm already connected to the grid, can I go off grid? And we'll answer that question. We'll look at hybrid systems, how they work, what they are, reasons to get a hybrid systems. I'll touch briefly on some battery technology because I could have a whole presentation just alone on that. But what I really wanted to show people is a couple of case studies. So I've got 3 case studies to quickly run through. 2 are for hybrid systems, and what we're going to be looking at is return on investments, payback period savings on these hybrid systems, so getting batteries, and then I'll compare it to a third one, which is just getting a standard grid connect system and comparing the two. So that should give you an idea of hopefully where the energy storage market is at the moment. If you are going to get a hybrid system, I'll just quickly touch on some things to consider, and then if we've got some time at the end, I'm happy to answer any questions. So, energy storage market really took off in 2015 when Tesla announced the Powerwall. That's when it really started. And the reason that it really took off was because the price was relatively affordable. Certainly more affordable than it was previous to that, and also the warranty. So he was offering a 10-year warranty on these batteries. Now I'll talk a little bit more about battery warranties in a bit, but that was a big driver for the energy storage market and hybrid systems. Since then, we've got a LG, Samsung, BYD. There is 20 or 30 battery manufacturers now that are offering batteries for hybrid systems. And they're all slightly different, and they all have pros and cons, and you're not comparing apples with apples. So there's a lot to go through. They're all offering 10-year warranties, but again, I'll touch on what that 10-year warranty looks like and what that actually means. It's not really a 10-year warranty as such, but we'll have a quick look at that in a sec. Uptake of batteries has been slow in Australia. I remember saying this, 3 years ago, and the prices, now we're starting to see the price drop. And again, we'll see that when we do the case studies. And it can make financial sense in some circumstances. So let's quickly touch on going off the grid. People sick of energy providers, they want to go off the grid. We hear this a lot. And we do it for certain circumstances, but from a financial sense, it won't make sense. If you're already connected to the grid, going off grid completely, it's a whole new level of complexity. We have to do energy audits. We have to look at maximum demand profiles. You're going to need a much larger battery bank. You're going to need a generator to back up in winter, particularly out here. You're looking at a $30,000 plus system to run a house. Now, if we're looking at a 10, 12 year payback period, 10 or 12 year lifestyle time on a battery, in 10 to 12 years, you're going to have to replace your battery. You're not going to get your money back, is the point. You might at best be cash flow neutral by the end of the 10 years or net neutral. Off-grid systems make financial sense if there's no grid there. So if a lot of all our off-grid systems we're putting in where there's no grid, there's no infrastructure there. Ergon want $60,000, $70,000 to get power there. An off-grid system, a $30,000 off-grid system, makes a lot more sense in that instance, obviously. So, going off-grid if you're connected to the grid, just quickly, you've got to be doing it for other reasons. You're not going to get your money back as much as people want. But there is another way, and it's the hybrid system. And you're still connected to the grid, you've got some solar, and then you've got some energy storage. So the hybrid system offers the best of both worlds. You obviously, your solar panel, your solars generate power during the day. They charge your batteries and run your house during the day. And then at night, you use the power out of your batteries. The grid sits there as a backup, okay? So we don't need to size the batteries as big, and that's where the cost is, obviously, in the battery. So we don't need to size the batteries to be able to be completely self-sufficient, although you will see that we are. So then, hybrid systems, you get to use the battery power in the event of a power outage, which is the other advantage of this. So if the grid goes down, you can connect. You just run straight off your battery. And you don't, as I said, you don't need a large battery bank to achieve that level of self-sufficiency. Reasons to get a hybrid system: reduce your electricity bill is obviously the most common one. Have power if the grid goes down. Big incentive in rural properties, so especially with people in fire-prone areas, they might want to have pressure pumps still running if the grid goes down, so it can be really important for people to have that reliable power. Medical reasons, same thing, people want reliable power. Constant brownouts. The other reason that might come into play coming up is if they start charging people for export, which I don't know whether you've heard in the news. There is rumours, or that the Australian energy market did come out and say, well, we think retailers have the right to charge for power going back to the grid. I personally think it's a bit of a tactic to push towards batteries to help stabilise the grid, but we'll see. Some people just like the technology. That's all good as well, because we need these early adopters to be able to move this technology along. So it's important that if you've got some money that you like and you like the technology, it's not a bad reason. We do have people that just like the technology, or gives a finger to the electricity providers, which is another one. I ran through that. That was just how the hybrid system works. Solar provides power to the house and charges your batteries. Anything left over will get exported to the grid. If the batteries are depleted and we do need some power, it just comes back off the grid. It's all seamless. You don't know this is happening. Very smart stuff goes on. You don't know what's happening. So, okay, common batteries. I'll just quickly touch on this. As I said, you could spend a whole half an hour just on this, but lead-acid batteries, obviously still quite common. Lithium iron phosphate, flow batteries. Flow batteries are probably starting to take more place in the commercial side or utility side. They're really fantastic for that larger scale side of things. They're really interesting companies doing some work in here. Thermal energy, 14 degrees, is doing some great technology with molten silicon, but again, more in that utility size scale. Most common, again, for hybrid systems is lithium ion. Now, lithium ion, underneath that banner, there's a whole lot of different chemistries under I over N. And the most common for hybrid systems is lithium iron phosphate. It is the safest. So, fires and stuff, especially cars as well, lithium iron phosphate is the most common one. I'll just quickly touch with the batteries, the warranty on these batteries here. So they say a 10-year warranty, but when you read the fine print, it says we will warrant this battery for 10 years to still have a 60% capacity left in it, usable capacity left in it. So it's not a full, they're saying after 10 years, there's still going to be 60% left of this battery. They're not saying there's going to be 100% of this battery, it's going to be 60%. You've lost 40% over 10 years. Some manufacturers are claiming warranting to 80% left after 10 years. It's an interesting. They've got a lot of outs. Is the key to that. It's going to be very hard to claim a warranty, I think, on a battery at 10 years. I think in the first couple of years, obviously something's gone wrong, but after 10 years, yeah. So yes, it's a 10-year warranty, but it's a limited 10-year warranty. Pros and cons of lithium batteries. Lithium batteries, one of the biggest pros of lithium batteries is they're expandable, not like lead-acid batteries. When we're designing lead-acid systems, we have to look at the lifetime of the batteries. You can't just add a couple of cells to a lead-acid battery system, 48-volt lead-acid battery system. Lithium batteries, they normally come in a kilowatt-hour bank, say a 4 kilowatt-hour bank, and you can build them up as you want. And it doesn't matter whether you put a brand new lithium battery in with a 5-year-old lithium battery, the way that they manage themselves, basically. They're self-managed. So you can expand them. You can start small, and as the price goes, you can then expand your system. So it's a big benefit for lithium batteries. You can use 90% of the battery capacity again. So instead of the old lead-acid batteries where we only want to go from 100 to 70 or just use that top 30%, lithium batteries we can use up to 90% or more. Some manufacturers are claiming. Okay. Power versus kilo. I won't spend too much time on this, but it is important. It can mean the difference. If you don't understand this, it can mean the difference between buying a hybrid system that doesn't suit your needs to getting the right hybrid system for you. Power, when we're talking about power in watts or kilowatts, we're talking about how much power we can get out of a battery. So that's like flow rate. You've got a tap, you can turn the tap on, you get more pressure out of the tap. That's power. Energy is storing energy. So then we talk about how much energy can we store in a battery. Two different types of things. Most people just talk about how much energy I can get out of a battery. So it's a 4 kilowatt hour battery bank. But that 4 kilowatt hour battery bank can only get a certain amount of power out of it. It's not indefinite amount of power out of it. So that 4 kilowatt hour battery bank might say, the manufacturer say, well, you can draw 2 kilowatts out of this bank continuously, or 1 kilowatt continuously. So then when you start stacking batteries up, you can start getting more power out of them. So it's just a lot of people, I've got a battery, well, I can run whatever. It's like, well, no, you can't. You've got to make sure you've designed the battery to your needs. Types of hybrid systems. So when choosing a hybrid system, again, a couple of questions that need to be considered. And, any good retailer will sit down with you and try and get a good understanding of what you want to achieve out of this. They're not off-the-shelf products, or they shouldn't be anyway. Do you just want to store your power and use it at night, so you don't want any backup? Do you want backup? And if you do want backup, are you happy just to back up a couple of circuits, or do you want to back up your whole house? So if the grid fails, some inverters or hybrid systems will just back up 2 critical circuits, say a light circuit and maybe a circuit that your fridge is on. So if the power goes out, you'll have lights and your fridge still works and maybe a pressure pump as well. That system will not back up your whole house. So, but if you want to back up your whole house in case of a power outage, different type of system. Cost goes up as well. So you can do both, but you've got to understand that not all systems do the same thing. Single phase or 3-phase, again, big cost difference in that as well. All right, $1 million question. How much does a hybrid system cost? It depends on a lot of factors, but ballpark figures, generally starting at around that $10,000 mark for a basic hybrid system with batteries installed after your government rebate. That's your out-of-pocket. That's sort of where we're starting. Full backup, you could be up to $15,000 plus, and then 3-phase backup could be 20. And then there's a whole lot of in between all that stuff too. But just as a ballpark figure, I'm just going to get a sip of water, sorry. Okay, so this is case study 1. So this is clients come to us. It's a new system. They're single phase. Their average quarterly bill is $500. They're on tariff 11. They're getting 6.6 cents a kilowatt hour to feed back to the grid. Average daily usage, that actually should be 17. Apologies, that's a typo, but that's 17 kilowatt hours. It's not going to make too much of a difference. We're going to assume a 50-50 daytime, nighttime usage. So, it's just some people, that's what we, from a design point of view, that's what we need to ask, whether you're at home during the day or not, and that'll change the return on investment a little bit. But for this course, I've just gone 50-50. And this client wants to back up the house. Pretty much everything in the house besides, obviously, air conditioning and the hot water, but they want to back everything else up. Now, I use a modelling program to do this. So we put all this information into a modelling program. We place the panels virtually on the roof of your house. We run using meteorological data for your specific area. And what we get out is, and you'll see, is the numbers, return on investment, savings, payback periods, and stuff like that. So we can then tweak it and try and make sure you get your best return on investment. This is a system that I've designed. It's 18 panels. I've got a Photonics Gen 24 hybrid inverter here. We've got BYD batteries. They are a 2.73 kilowatt hour lithium battery, and I've designed 4 of them for this specific client. So total 11, usable's 9.9 kilowatt hours in the battery bank. That's to 90%, that's using 90% of the battery. Smart meter rating rank, $17,000 installed, ballpark figure, after your rebate. So that's your out-of-pocket cost for this size system. So let's have a look at what that looks like from an investment point of view. Putting all this information into our modelling program, this is what we get. So, couple of key points here. 100% self-powered, 100% self-sufficient, not buying any power from the grid, basically. It would only be in the event of really bad weather, depths of winter maybe, that you'd be buying a bit. But overall, 100% self-sufficient. This little graph here, we can see here, this is a solar here that charges up during the day. Batteries are full. At night, we're using the batteries. And there's still a little bit of capacity that I've left in here in case of a power outage as well. So if we had a power outage here, you don't want to be right down here because you're going to lose power. So you want to leave a little bit in there, and you can program these inverters to leave a X amount of capacity there. You can do all kinds of stuff, but this is pretty just standard. We've left some capacity there. So if there was a power outage there, we'd still have a bit of capacity to get through, and then the next day, batteries would charge up and away you go. So 100% self-consumed energy. A little bit of export there, so you're still making about $400 a year, selling back to the grid at 6.6 cents a kilowatt hour. This is the interesting part, I find. This is your bill, $2,000 a year bill. That's $500 a quarter. That'll wipe your bill out, that kind of system. So you paid a lot, but we'll wipe your bill out. And it allows you to be self-sufficient, and you've got power there in the case of an emergency, and you've got backup. Lifetime savings. So these are the real key numbers. Savings in the first year, obviously you've wiped your bill. Payback period, just under 8 years to get your money back. Now that is around a return of investment of around about 10%. Now, if you put $17,000 in some shares and got 10% return on investment, you're probably pretty happy, I would imagine. It's not a bad return on investment at the moment. There's your investment. So you can see here, that's just your payback period, and then your savings. So that's the numbers on a hybrid system at $17,000. Okay, case study number 2. New system, single phase, quarterly bill of about $300 this client has. Tariff 23, feed-in tariff 6.6 cents. Average daily usage of about 12 kilowatt hours, so a little bit less. 50-50 daytime usage just to keep it simple. This client's happy just to back up 2 circuits. So in the case of emergency, we'd just back up your light circuit and probably a fridge or a pressure pump circuit. Okay. Okay, we're still looking at 18 panels. Wouldn't need 18 panels, but the government rebate is tied to the amount of panels that you have, so panels are the cheapest part of the system. We're looking at a SunGrow hybrid inverter this time. SunGrow 4.8 kilowatt hour lithium battery bank. So we've got a usable kilowatt hours of 4 kilowatt hours at 90% instead of the previous case study, which was nearly 10. Smart meters installed, we're looking at about $12,000 installed after your government rebate, give or take. All right. Putting those numbers in the modelling program, still 100% self-sufficient. Being a little bit smaller battery bank, we still got some extra capacity there if we need it, if there was a power outage early in the morning. Panels will well and truly charge the batteries back up. So that's all good there. 100% self-consumed energy. Making a little bit more on the solar export because it's a smaller bill and we're exporting more, obviously. Again, here's interesting. There's your bill. That's what we expect your bill to go down to. In fact, that is, sorry, it didn't really, this one didn't come out very well, but that's 0. So it's a negative number. So you cash flow, yeah. So you're in front.
Excuse me, does that include the fixed rate that you have to pay every quarter, the $100?
Yes, that does. It does. That's wiped out that as well. Yep. And that's what that bit there does that. Yep. So if that 6.6 cents a kilowatt hour disappeared, yeah, all right, maybe a slightly different story because that there is what gets rid of that service fee. Yeah. So let's hope they don't do it. So numbers. 7-year payback period, just over 7-year payback period. 12% return on investment. Obviously, full savings of your electricity bill in the first year. Again, not a bad return on investment. So that's what that looks like. So these are these two systems. This system here is just visually so you can see what they look like. So a lot of people haven't seen a hybrid system. That is the Photonics Inverter Gen 24. That is the BYD, and these are 2.73 kilowatt hour battery banks. There's 4 of them there. And that's what it looks like, panels on the roof. Nice and neat, I think anyway. This is the SunGrow setup. That's the hybrid inverter, and then there's your 4.8 kilowatt hour battery bank. So that's sort of what they look like. I won't press that. That's all these systems are monitored as well. It's really important that they're monitored. So they're online. So your retailer or whoever sells your system can see that system. If there are any firmware updates that need to be done, we can do it all remotely. It's quite important. Some battery manufacturers are either also part of their warranty conditions is that these systems are monitored constantly online. Okay, so there are our 2 hybrid case studies. If we have let's compare them just to a normal grid connect system that we're doing. So case study 3, new system, single phase, quarterly bill of $500. I'm just going to compare the $500 bill. Feed-in tariff's the same, 17 kilowatt hours, 50/50 daytime usage. But what we're doing here is we're just putting a standard 6.6 kilowatt grid connect system up. No batteries, no backup, nothing. Around about $6,000 is where we're at the moment for this kind of setup, installed after the government rebate. Plugging that in, self-consumed energy, 63%. So there's your solar exports the same, but here's your $2,000 bill. We're still looking at about $100 a quarter paying it on your electricity bill. Now, savings $1,500 a year, under 4-year payback period though. So it's still, even at 6.6 cents a kilowatt hour, which a lot of people go, oh, is it really worth doing anymore? Yeah, it is, I think. Under 4-year payback period, 26% return on investment. You can't put $6,000 anywhere else and get 26% return on investment that I know of anyway. So yes, it is still, with that feed-in tariff, even as it is at 6.6 or 6.5 cents a kilowatt hour, it's a reasonable return on investment.
Excuse me, Tim.
Yeah.
Just a question. I'm astounded at the size of the systems that you're putting in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because of appliance creep? People just are not conserving electricity at all anymore? They just want what they want?
Yeah, it is. We see some horrendous electricity bills. A lot of people have air conditioning these days, and they use it. So it is that, but it's also the price of solar's come down. So the government rebate is attached to the panels. So putting 18 panels up. So the 6.6, why it's 6.6 is we always like to oversize the inverter with the panel. So it's a 5 kilowatt inverter with 6.6 kilowatts of solar. So the inverter will never produce more than 5 kilowatts, but we like to oversize it. It keeps the inverter nice and happy. It turns it on early in the morning and keeps it going for as long as it can. And that's just a voltage thing. But panels are the cheapest part at the moment, and with the government rebate. The government rebate is tied to how many panels you have. So you might as well, the difference between a 6.6 kilowatt system and a 4 kilowatt system now is next to nothing, because less panels, less government rebate anyway, and the cost between a 4 kilowatt inverter and a 5 kilowatt inverter is about the same. So whereas, 3 or 4, well, when did I start? I started 8 years ago. So 8 years ago, the difference between a 3 kilowatt system and a 5 kilowatt system was huge. It was like $3,000 or $4,000. So then that's why, but once that price came down, you just put on the most you can. If you can fit it up there, put it up there. It's going to, and especially with a feed-in tariff, you're going to get your money back pretty quickly. Does that answer your question? Yep. Okay, so hybrid versus solar. We've sort of run through this. Capital cost. There's your difference between these two systems. It's a twice the payback period with batteries. But in saying this, this system here 3 years ago was probably going to cost you $25,000. And we would have been looking at a 12, 13, 14 year payback period. So now it's, this price, now it's starting to get reasonable. And we're just going to continue to see that as the years go on. So it is coming down finally. It's been much slower than we expected as an industry, but it's happening.
Sorry, one question, Tim.
Yeah.
Which one do you recommend for like domestic consumption or like a normal household? Which is the better option to go for, hybrid or solar?
Well, it depends on, again, it comes down to whether you're doing it for a financial return on investment. If you're just doing it for a financial return on investment, just solar and wait. And you'll always, and I'll touch on this, you can add batteries. You can add batteries to a system. You can add batteries to this system down the track. You don't have to do it straight away. So if you're just doing, but not everyone does it just for a financial, from a financial answer. So, oh yeah, sorry, yeah, thank you. Yes, yes, just to see if you're watching. Yeah. All right, so yeah, so does that answer? Yeah, it depends on what you're doing it for. This system. Sorry? You want to save? Then this is you.
Solar.
Yeah, just solar. Sorry. Yeah, just solar. Yeah, and then do your batteries when this price comes down. Yeah, but as I said, some people go, well, I really, I want to have that security and reliable power, and I want it now.
What is the quality of the technology? Is it Australian made or is it all imported?
Different brands. We've got there's this BYD battery is a Chinese battery, but BYD is the largest manufacturer, lithium battery manufacturer, nearly in the world. They do, in China they're huge. Really good battery, we really like them. Power Plus Energy, an Australian battery manufacturer, which we really like as well. So, if you came to us, we'd just sit down and talk to you about what you want. Everyone's different, and everyone, people have different budgets, people have different ideas of what they want, but I won't sell rubbish. It just bites me on the arse at the end of the day. So anything that we recommend is as a good reputation. But in saying that, you're also an early adopter. Okay, and it's really, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But you're an early adopter. I think if we've pretty much run through all that. Yeah, so I've mentioned that as well. So a couple of years ago, that payback period was a lot worse. Touching on this, can I add batteries to an existing system? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. there's a couple of things that we need to consider if we're adding batteries to an existing solar system, but and that obviously the age of that system. Like if it's a 15-year-old system, we're probably not going to add batteries to that system. We're probably going to recommend upgrading that whole system. It's just not going to work. But you know, if you bought a system now and then in a couple of years' time wanted to add batteries to it, absolutely not a problem. There's a couple of different ways of doing it. And as I said, it may be more cost effective to replace the inverter with a hybrid inverter depending on the age of the system. Just as a schematic, these are a couple of different ways you can do it. If this is your old system here, you've got your inverter and your panels, we can put in what's called an inverter charger and some batteries. And that can be retrofitted to any system. This is just a way, this just shows you can do a range of things as well, depending on. Sometimes Ergon puts, or Energex puts some constraints on how you do stuff. So this is just showing there's ways around how you get around what they want. So lots of different options there. And this is where we're moving to. This is what everyone's working on. So, okay, things to consider if you are buying a hybrid system. It is a fast-moving industry, as you can imagine. It's moving quickly. So one of the things that you have to be not concerned of, but take into account is if you buy systems now and you've bought a hybrid system, but you might want to upgrade the batteries in a couple of years' time. You know, are those batteries going to be able to be? Are they still there in a couple of years' time? Because it is moving fast. Most of the answer on that is yes, to be honest now, because they are plug and play and they don't talk to each other. Lots of things to be considered in a hybrid system. I think, hopefully that presentation showed you this. You know, you just don't go and buy a hybrid system and put it in. It is a design process. There's things to be considered to make sure you get the right system. Get the system that meets your needs specifically. Everyone's got a little bit different. Make sure you understand the limitations of the system. As I said, not all systems can back up your whole house, if that's what you want. And just touching back on this, you are an early adopter, so it may not always go smoothly. These batteries they've got battery management systems in them. They're little computers. They need to talk to the inverter, so there's communications there. Sometimes they just need a reset. Sometimes they need a firmware update. Some of these manufacturers are ironing out the creases on the fly, right? So just be aware it may not go smoothly. And then it's really important then to find a retailer or someone who you're buying the system off that will offer you a really good after sales service, because they may need to come back and tweak the system or do a firmware update or reconnect the batteries or something. Again, important to monitor the systems. They should all be connected to the internet so that not only you can monitor your system remotely, but your retailer can monitor the system passively. So if anything went wrong, they would get an email alert. And also the manufacturer can then patch in if they need to as well. So it is important that these things are connected to the internet. New standards where batteries can be located. Getting really strict on this stuff. We've had a big standard change about 18 months ago about where you can put lithium batteries in a residential house. So it's really important to discuss that with your installer. They can't just be placed anywhere. There's rules around where they can go, and that's a safety thing. That's it. I hope that was useful.
We've got some more questions. We've got time for some more questions. Wolfgang.
Yes. Have you got any information about the stability of the Stanthorpe area grid in terms of the export shutdowns, etc.?
What's the question?
Wolfgang was just saying, do I have any information on the stability of the Stanthorpe grid? With the capacity, I guess. Yep. The last I looked, I think the solar uptake in Stanthorpe was actually quite high compared for nationwide. I think they were 40% solar uptake. As far as how that affects the grid stability, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I know,
That has been an issue
yeah.
in quite some area, in a lot of areas.
In a lot of areas, that's right. And I was just going back, that's my guess as to why the AEMO came out and said, so the Australian energy market came out and said, you can charge for export. Because I think it's a tactic to push people to batteries. Because the second that came out, our phones went hot. Yeah, I want to, right, let's go batteries. I'm not paying to sell, I'm not paying for my power to go back to the grid. So because it's a well-known fact that the infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure was never meant to have power go back into it. It was a one-way scheme. Generated, delivered, used. And they are struggling, they're struggling to keep up with the amount, because every year in Australia, at the moment, we're setting records for how much PV is going up on residential areas, on residential houses. Every year we're beating it. So last year we're putting more up every year. And that is affecting the grid. Like, there's no two ways about it. They're struggling to, you can think on a nice sunny day in summer, and a cloud goes past, and all the solar drops down, then the cloud goes, and then suddenly there's this huge burst of power back into the grid. It destabilises it. So they know that there is an issue here, and I think batteries are the answer to that, and they know this. So I think batteries are going to be really important into stabilising that grid. I think that's why they're doing it. Yeah.
Is there any intention that they will actually start changing the grid so that in long term we can take that in?
No, I don't think so. It's not. I mean, they're adjusting it. They are doing things to upgrade it, but it's they're a company that has to make money. They're not. They're seeing the writing on the wall, so to speak. So they're. I don't know what their long-term plans are. I mean, they're not silly. They'll have a 10-year, 20-year plan. Yeah, I mean, we're hearing, the technology that we're putting in at the moment with inverters and stuff has the capacity for the retailer to control them in some respect. So, we're hearing, there's a lot of technology or a lot of research being put into batteries that, the retailers might say, well, I want 10% of your battery capacity, so that they can move power around if and when they need to. So that is where it is heading. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there are going to be some more questions, but they're probably private questions because there's...
I got one more over here.
Sorry.
I'm wondering about the lifespan of all the components of it. I mean, how long do solar panels last?
Sure.
And I doubt you'd get a government subsidy to replace them once they do. And the inverter,
Yep.
and of course the batteries, they
Sure.
need replacing at some point.
Yep. So panel manufacturer warranty. So there's two warranties that go with panels at the moment. There's the manufacturer warranty. Most panel manufacturers are getting 15 years manufacturer warranty. Excuse me. And they're giving a warranty on performance to 25 years to 80% of the original capacity of the panel. So we're starting to get up there. So we're looking. I tell people I think a 15 to 20 year lifetime on your panel would be reasonable. Now, you should have well and truly made your money back on that panel by then. Yeah.
And as they diminish, can you just add panels to boost?
No, not really. And that's the other tricky thing with the industry. I mean, panel technology has just gone through the roof. Like, it was only 18 months, 2 years ago, we were installing two 90-watt panels. Was a big panel. We're at 370, 400. We did the Kalani Co-op and we used 450-watt panels. We're starting to hear into the market 500, 520-watt panels. So the problem that we've got is that I can't get a 290-watt panel anymore to replace what we did only 2 years ago. There are ways around it, and there is storage. That's all under warranty. So all these manufacturers are storing warranty panels, but it's moving fast. It's moving really fast. So just to finish answering your question, inverter warranties are 10 years. So we're starting to get 10-year warranties on inverters. It's a 5 plus 5 year warranty. It's a full replacement, including installation for the first 5 years, and then the second 5 years is just replacement components. Oh, capacitors. It's just electrical stuff, like mainly capacitors, relays, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And batteries, as I said, 10-year warranty on these lithium batteries, but unknown. They've only we haven't hit a 10-year mark yet. We don't know.
Do you have to regularly clean your solar panels?
It depends on where you are. You know, if you're next to a farm or especially wineries where they spray a lot, yeah, you do. You need to clean them regularly. If you're just out there, they're on a relatively good pitch, you know, anything over sort of 8 or 9 degrees, they'll pretty well self-clean with a good downpour, and you might want to give them a proper clean every 5 years. You know, it depends. And when they get older, yeah, you want to get them checked, but generally they're all right. But next to farms and wineries and stuff, yeah.
And are there people in town who offer that service?
Yep. Yep, I can give that to you. Yeah.
Talking about the pitch and that, what is the best position for your and direction for your panels, and can you have a static tree instead of on the roof?
Can you have standard on ground? Yeah, you can. Look, north facing 25 degrees is your optimal, I guess.
I heard that if you put sun facing directly,
Yeah.
facing is better because those panels will get full
Yep.
sun. If you put them north, they only get partial.
Exactly, yeah. And your production profile changes for east-west. So I actually like east-west as well, because if you can, and at the end of the day, a lot of you don't, unless you're building a house, you've got what you've got. Like, it is what it is. But
But if you had a tree built, you aren't just standalone panels.
Yeah.
You can put them wherever you want.
yeah, you can, yeah. Yeah, you could go east-west. And that, you know, it comes down to, again, how you sort of, what your load profile looks like. So east-west, they'll fire up earlier, and they won't, and they'll go later in the day. But they won't have that, you know, standard solar production's a big bell curve. A north-facing panel, big bell curve. So all these ones that I put here, where are they? This one here. These are all north, due north, about 25 degrees. And you can see that perfect bell curve there. If you go east-west, what you'll find is they'll probably fire up a little bit earlier, and they'll just flatten out on the top, but they'll go a bit later. So if you've got more early morning and late afternoon usage, which people who work during the day generally do, an east-west is probably going to, an east-west production profile will suit you better than a north.
And have you done any hybrid system where you don't return it to the grid?
That's an off-grid system,
Well,
essentially.
you're still using the grid.
Oh yeah, you don't have to. I mean, yeah, you can put a zero export on there and just say we don't want to export anything to the grid, and the inverter will just monitor everything and not put anything to the grid. And sometimes, you know, depending where you are, Ergon might say zero. We cannot. Our transformer can't take any more to the grid. And so yes, we can do that. Yeah, not a problem. Exactly. You're going to be missing out on that bit there. Yep, so that will change. As I said, if that 6.6 cents per kilowatt hour, that will change that number there a bit. Yeah, for sure.
Tim, you may have some more questions for Tim, but maybe, as Tim has emphasised, whatever you want to know is probably a very specific personal issue. But as I've said before, having experienced being in that situation where I've asked Tim to help me out, he's done a fantastic job. So, on behalf of us all, will you accept that as a bit of our thanks?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No worries.